In this presentation, we will be exploring ways to promote optimum development of the preschool-aged child. So just like with infant and toddler, we will do this by looking at their psychosocial, cognitive, physical, and social developments and achievements. Additionally, we're going to review typical concerns, nutrition, and health promotion or anticipatory guidance that occurs during this time. So when we use the term preschooler, we're talking about the time period between 3 to 5 years of age. Preschoolers are energetic. They really do live life to the fullest. They're imaginative in their play and expressions, and they feel a lot of sense of accomplishment in different activities that they partake in. So we're going to talk a little more about aggression later, but during this time period, you may see some children display more aggressive behaviors or actions. So preschoolers are in the initiative versus guilt stage, which is that third stage of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. They are in the stage of energetic learning, like I said, and they gain initiative as they continue to develop their self-concept and gain desire to try new things. At this point, they're somewhat responsible for their actions. They're typically interacting with other children at school and through play and exploring their ability of initiating activities such as making up games, playing puzzles, or pretend play like kitchen or grocery store. The important event in this stage is independence. If children during this phase are given a safe space to experiment and appropriate stimuli to learn, they will continue to find their independence and their sense of initiative. However, if too many strict boundaries are placed and too much responsibility is forced on them, then they may feel extreme guilt for their inability to be able to complete the tasks perfectly, or they may feel that what they want to do is always wrong and they're going to develop a sense of guilt. Children also develop their superego or their conscious, and they can distinguish between what is right and wrong or good and bad choices. Cognitively, preschool children are in the pre-operational phase, and this phase spans from 2 to 7 years, so not all aspects of this phase occur in preschool, but there are certain transitions and milestones that do occur specifically during the preschool years. The early preschool-aged child falls within the preconceptual phase, which is from about 2 to 4 years of age, and then what follows is the intuitive thought phase. The main transition during these phases is moving from egocentricity to social awareness and beginning to consider other people's viewpoints. So preschoolers remain mainly egocentric, right? This concept of causality begins to develop, but they don't have a concept of time. They can only understand time in their own frame of reference. So you'd have to say something like, you can play trucks after you get dressed, rather than you can play trucks in 10 minutes. They just wouldn't be able to figure out what that means. Preschoolers are also magical thinkers. They think that their thoughts, their wishes, and their desires influence the world around them, kind of like my anxiety sometimes. So for example, if they wish hard enough for something like a toy or a pony, they really do think that it's going to appear. Two main achievements during the preschool years are pretend play and attending school. Preschoolers enjoy associative play or group play without rigid structure or rules, where they're typically engaging in activities related to the children around them. They may not necessarily be interacting with another child. They are also beginning to engage in imitative, imaginative, dramatic play. So they're playing dress up, they're playing doctor, bluey, explorer. They might even have an imaginary friend. In the later preschool years, they will tend to move beyond pretend play and they'll want to physically do the activities such as cooking. The preschool years also bring about one of the more significant lifestyle changes, which is going to school. Preschool provides the opportunity for socialization with peers, learning about cooperation and sharing, and coping with potential frustrations or anger. Additionally, it provides an opportunity for these kids to develop self-confidence in doing things on their own. During this time period, there's lots of social milestones as well. The ritualism and negativism of toddlerhood diminish, and they engage with the world around them in much different ways. At age 3, some of the larger milestones that occur are that they become better at sharing toys. They can also learn their full name and they can identify their gender at this time. At age 4, they'll play cooperatively in a group, and they can use the bathroom by themselves. And around age 5, they're going to start becoming more involved in household tasks. And even though before the age 5, they could assist in dressing themselves, they can now do it independently. So language development for preschoolers becomes even more sophisticated. Their language is a major mode of communication and social interaction. Vocabulary and complexity of language dramatically increases between the ages of 2 and 5. A preschooler's vocabulary goes from about 900 words at age 3 to up to 2,100 words by age 5. So some main language milestones for a 3-year-old include asking questions, why, and they will talk incessantly, even if nobody is paying attention, okay? Around age 4, they've got about 1,500 words, and really this question asking is at its peak. They also like to tell exaggerated stories and sing songs. And then around age 5, they're hitting that 2,100 word milestone. They're going to be asking the meanings of words. They're going to be speaking in complete sentences of about 6 to 8 words. And they can also, at this point, learn the days of the week and the months of the year. So lots of drastic changes going on during this time. For gross motor development, preschoolers walk, run, and jump. Okay, they're continuing to work on that hand, eye, and muscle coordination. So some major growth milestones to pay attention to, and that you'll see in a preschooler is riding a tricycle at age 3 wheels for age 3, okay? At 3 to 4 years old, they can hop on one foot, so maybe you're playing a game like hopscotch. They should be able to alternate their feet going up and down stairs as well. And then by age 5, they should be skipping by alternating their feet or maybe even jumping rope. For fine motor development, we have a lot of refinement in their hand-eye coordination here. They can show skillful manipulation in some of their fine motor skills. So they are dressing themselves in drawing as they go through this phase. They'll be building a 9-block tower by age 3, copying a circle and partially dressing themselves. Then by age 4, they can copy a cross, build a bridge with blocks, and then at last by age 5, they're copying a triangle. They are tying their shoes and drawing a recognizable person. Other areas of development include body image, sexuality, and sex education. During this time period, preschoolers recognize differences in appearance and they are aware of the meaning of words like ugly or pretty, big and small. They start to compare themselves to other children their age. So since these years are formative, it's really important for positive body images and messages to be conveyed. While preschoolers have this advancement in understanding of body image, they still have poorly defined body boundaries. So for example, children fear that if their skin is broken, all the blood will come out. If you've seen a child around this age get a cut, they do often act like it's the end of the world. Band-aids are super important. Preschoolers often form strong attachments to opposite-sex parents or caregivers while identifying with same-sex caregivers during this time. So you'll often see this age group engaging in activities such as dressing up like mommy or daddy. Sexual exploration is more pronounced as well, and you may see them touching themselves more often. They continue to ask questions, and they will start to ask where babies come from, or why do they have a penis or a vagina, and what do these things do, and how do they work. So when we're talking about sex with young children, it's really important to find out what they already know and they think. Having this information beforehand is going to help you ascertain what that child wants to know without maybe going into too much detail if it's really not needed at that time. At this age, it's also important to talk with children about body safety. It's important to teach them the proper name for all their body parts so that if they had to tell an adult that somebody touched them in one of those areas, the adult would know what that child was talking about. It's also important to talk with children and give them a solid rule that it is not okay for anyone to look or touch their private parts or for them to do that to somebody else. You could even say, covered by your swimsuit or what's covered by your underwear, and to tell a trusted adult if that does happen. Now, the last part we're going to talk about on this first part of the presentation is biologic development. Now, looking at biologic development, a preschooler's physical growth slows and stabilizes compared to earlier. Their average weight gain remains about 5 pounds per year. Their average height increases about 2.5 to 3 inches per year, and then the body systems mature and stabilize. Not super shocking, right? So that ends this section of the presentation, and then we'll continue on with nutrition and some typical concerns and health promotion for the preschool age years. All right, as we have talked about before, nutrition is still important for this age group for adequate growth and development. Preschoolers are still developing eating habits, and they need some encouragement to eat healthy foods as preschoolers take initiative and they are eager to learn. So this is a time period to help teach them healthy eating habits, get involved in choosing foods, helping prepare meals. We also want to discourage playing with food at mealtime and continue to offer various foods so that they can have some autonomy at the table. Preschoolers will copy their parents or their caregivers' eating habits, so modeling healthy habits is important as well. This age group often has an excessive consumption of fruit juices, so it really is only recommended to have no more than 6 ounces of juice per day if they even drink it at all. Otherwise, we really encourage to stick with drinking milk and water. Preschoolers need approximately 1,200 to 1,400 calories per day. The amount of food they eat will vary day by day. Some days you'll see them eating a lot. Some days they'll maybe have a little bit less, but it really does balance itself out. Obesity in young children has increased dramatically, so it's really important to teach healthy eating habits. And since this age group is still really impressionable, this is a great age group to start since, again, they want to make their own choices. They want to be involved so we can instill those healthy habits early on and it can be more effective. One framework that is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics is the 5210 framework. So this includes eating at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, limiting screen time to 2 hours or less, having no sugar-sweetened drinks, and engaging in at least 1 hour of physical activity per day. So some typical or usual concerns of parents or caregivers that you may encounter in this age group relate to fears, aggression, speech, sleep, and safety. During this time period, kids can experience the greatest number of real and imagined fears. These include fear of the dark, being left alone, especially at bedtime. Could be animals such as large dogs, and then ghosts and monsters. Also objects or people that they associate with pain, like nurses. These are all common because of a preschooler's very great imagination. So to help a child cope with these fears, it's important to find practical ways to help them overcome them. And so active involvement is great as it gives them that sense of control. Have them check for the monsters. Give them a light that they can turn on if the dark scares them. We didn't have a huge issue with fears with my girls, but at one point I remember we did make a monster box out of like an old Amazon box, and Emmy was able to decorate it and draw on it, and then we gave her a spray bottle and she was told to spray around her room a little bit and then invite the monsters to get into the box at night, and then she would close it up, and that really helped her feel involved and in control, and she used that for a little bit. It was kind of a fun thing for her to do. For other fears, such as maybe fear of dogs, you may need to try some desensitization. So this would involve exposing them to the object or the thing that they are afraid of in small increments in a safe space to help them develop positive associations with the thing they're fearing. So preschoolers are learning socially acceptable behaviors and working on the ability to control their aggression and redirect their anger. So they might experience aggressions, which are these behaviors that attempt to hurt a person or destroy property. These aggressions can be influenced by biologic, sociocultural, and family variables. There are some factors that can increase aggressive behaviors, one of which is gender. So, for example, boys or males tend to have more physical aggression than girls during this time period. Continual frustration can lead to aggression as a means of release of that frustration. So sometimes when these kids are trying to do something and they think that they should be able to do it and they cannot, that can increase their frustration. And then also modeling of abusive behaviors within the family can influence this age group into thinking that is an acceptable behavior, and then they would exhibit those same behaviors onto others. Another compounding factor here is reinforcement of aggressive behaviors. So, for example, if the child only really gets attention from their parents when they act out, like hit their sibling or hit a door, that will reinforce that type of behavior because it's attracting attention. And so children that maybe are a little bit more neglected or that don't get a lot of positive reinforcement in their family unit will often do the opposite, because attention is attention. There's no sort of qualifying factor there for these children. And so they will repeat those negative behaviors because then they will get that attention that they are seeking. So in terms of speech, one of the most critical periods for speech is between 2 and 4 years of age. Okay, they're using that vast vocabulary faster than they can even say some of the words. And so sometimes they might have a failure to master that sensory motor integration. And so you could hear some stuttering or stammering in this preschool age group. And these are common occurrences in language development. Oftentimes it will resolve on its own, but if they don't, or there are other speech problems, then prevention and early detection in order to refer them for speech therapy services would be crucial in help with working to develop that speech and minimizing any long-term difficulties that child might have. Parents or caregivers around this age are hoping that their kids are finally on a good schedule, but they still might be waking at night, especially due to those developmental fears and their changes. So sleep for a preschooler can really vary, but they do actually average about 12 hours per night. Some may still nap, but this is that time period where you're going to start to see that those naps are maybe more infrequent, and then they eventually won't take naps anymore as they kind of are getting into that school age where they're going to kindergarten. Waking during the night is common during this time period. And preschoolers will often experience nightmares or even sleep terrors, which are episodes of screaming or intense fear while that child is actually still asleep. And so they can be really frightening for parents or caregivers, but they shouldn't really cause much concern because in these cases, the child is still sleeping, so they don't even know what's going on. And actually, if you try to wake them up, it could actually make it worse. So the best thing to do is let them sleep and keep that child safe. Some things that contribute to night terrors are extreme tiredness or stress, or even like a sleep schedule disruption. So if like that child has some underlying conditions like sleep apnea that might not allow them to get adequate sleep, sometimes that fatigue will lead to these sleep terrors, and generally these kids will outgrow them eventually. It is really still important to encourage and to have a consistent bedtime ritual, have them slow down and engage in quiet activities before bed. The transition to bedtime can be difficult due to these fears that they have, so predictability and allowing time for transition really is key. Night lights are great. Transitional objects like a stuffed animal or even small rituals. We did brush, book, bed in our house, so brush your teeth, read a book, go to bed, can help comfort that child and set expectations. Safety education for preschoolers includes bike safety, wearing a helmet when riding. Additionally, it's important to teach this age group about street safety. We actually see an increase in pedestrian and motor vehicle accident injuries in this age group, so it's really important to teach them to look both ways before crossing a street or only cross with an adult. Try to be aware of their surroundings. That's a hard ask at this age, especially if they're playing a game, right, such as soccer or basketball, and that ball rolls down into the street. Kids this age are generally less aware of their surroundings than older kids, and so that impulse to chase that ball or whatever has gotten loose tends to override their awareness of the road or cars. So this is a really dangerous age group because they're getting a little bit more independent, but they also still aren't quite there. So we really need to teach them those strict boundaries with the road. So at this point, wellness visits become less infrequent. They're often only seen yearly by a primary care provider, and then of course for any acute illnesses. Immunizations that are recommended for this age group would include their yearly influenza and then COVID vaccine based on current recommendations, plus any of their pre-kindergarten immunizations that they would get anywhere between 4 and 6 years of age, which include their additional doses of DTaP, polio or IPV, MMR, and varicella. All right, that is all for preschool. Have a great day.